Secretary, are we still doing business with these people who offered gifts under these circumstances?
Congressman, we are still doing business with the companies, yes.
So the same people who offered gifts over the last couple of years are still in daily contact with the Mineral Management Services?
I can't respond if they're in daily contact or if they're the same individuals, but you could assume that that is happening.
So what's the ethical message we're sending to those companies?
Well, I think they're seeing, Congressman, the fact that we're dealing with it within the department. We're dealing with personnel issues where actions will be taken. Because they are longstanding career employees, we will afford them all due process.
No, I understand that. I want to know about the companies. So the companies just go on and do business tomorrow just as they did yesterday?
Congressman, no. And in fact, I think if we had others who could speak to this, but there has been a discussion that we will do an outreach so that they fully understand what parameters our employees must work under, and therefore the companies will know not to offer beyond that because it puts our employees in a very tough situation.
Not to offer what beyond that?
Gifts that would exceed the gift band, activities that would go beyond what is within the ethical standards.
So they can offer gifts. They just have to make a decision of whether or not it violates the gift ban. The gift ban, no gifts, some gifts, a threshold. Is it $100, $150, $200?
There's a threshold. The threshold is $20. Yes, there is a threshold that has been identified.
So it's $20 per gift?
Correct.
So I give you a gift every day for $20?
No, and it's cumulative too.
So what's the upside level?
Well, I'll make that a part of the record. I'll get back with all of that.
I just find it kind of disturbing that one half of the crime here just goes on and conducts business as if nothing happened. You can, I mean, there apparently is no lesson learned in a sense inside that corporation because the same people are on the front lines holding on to the same relationships. You've transferred people, and I thank you for doing that, and I think you've handled this rather well. But we're right back with the same people who apparently thought there was some reason, some benefits to that behavior, and that behavior isn't outlawed. We don't debar them from working with the government for a year or whatever it is. There's no prosecutions. And it says you won't receive any employees shall not directly or indirectly solicit or accept a gift from a prohibited source but that apparently doesn't prohibit you from offering. So you can continue to try to ingratiate yourself to an employee or bribe an employee, and if the employee says yes, you're in. If the employee says no, you're out.
Yeah. Congressman Miller, what we have discussed and what I would like to initiate is an outreach program so that we do sit down and we go through this with the corporation so that they know exactly what the rules and the requirements are.
They know what the rules are. I have all these companies in my district. They know what ethical behavior is and isn't. I don't know. I know the chairmen of the board. They know what ethical behavior is. They just apparently have chosen not to participate in it. We're going to take big, grown-up, and successful people. We're going to give them ethics lessons. I don't get it.
Congressman,
I suspect the prosecution would focus the mind on the ethical problem, as opposed to a DVD. I just don't understand it. You know, in the Department of Education, we go through the Inspector Generals, and millions of dollars went out the back door, went out in conflicts of interest, and people were allowed to move on. People were allowed to retire. People who kept the millions of dollars wrongfully found, they kept it. Contracts are in place. They continue to be enriched. I don't get it.
Congressman, it's all part of what is being evaluated now based upon the fact that we've received the report last week. And as the Inspector General has pointed out, many of these practices no longer happen. They
What's
have
the
not
standard of conduct you're developing for the people having contact with the United States government? What's the standard you're imposing on the contractors?
Well, it is to be of the highest of ethical standards.
How do they know that?
I think they're knowing that from activities such as this hearing. They're knowing that by seeing that there are consequences.
What's in the contract? You do business with us, how do you conduct yourself?
Would you
You got a written standard for the employees, but the other guy can keep baiting them and baiting them and baiting them, and I guess they'll either love to take it or they'll resist or whatever they'll do. What about the behavior by the private sector here?
Congressman, I think that the private sector is also seeing that there are consequences. There are consequences.
What would those be for the private sector? They chose not to. One company chose not to cooperate. Still doing business. The other companies cooperated. We appreciate that. And the employees are still in place. What is it they're learning from this lesson?
Well, they're learning that as we have future activities, that we are adhering to a particular set of standards.
What standards are you expecting them to adhere to?
Congressman, there are standards of appropriate behavior by businesses. And they're seeing that there
Well,
are
you know, the
consequences.
American public would probably be surprised as they watch a meltdown all across the country in the pillars of American society, the financial institutions, where clearly, you know, when you started loaning money based upon a liar's loan, that's what it was known as, a liar's loan. You were loaning money to liars who had no ability to pay it back. And we want to talk about ethical standards. And here you're dealing with a very precious resource in a very delicate program with billions of dollars at stake, and we're telling the companies, well, you should learn something because we've transferred some people from one department to another, what have you, and we've prosecuted a couple of government employees. But you don't have to change anything. I don't get it. I just don't get it.
Congressman, this is all part of a process that is under review, that is being evaluated and examined, so that there are lessons learned. There are certainly consequences that are being paid by it.
I want to know, what are those consequences? We're back to the beginning here. The same employees are dealing with the MMS. The same representatives are there. The companies have no greater burden imposed upon them. There's no changing of the contractual liabilities or the conditions of employment or engagement of these companies. Apparently you can't answer the question. I have great respect for you, Mr. Secretary. And your ethical standards are way beyond this. And somehow that has to be transmitted to the private sector. And the private sector has to know you don't get to come around and start offering gifts to people in a program when you have billions of dollars at stake, and a little bit of change here and a little bit of change there can be worth a lot. That just...
And Congressman, I have a great deal of respect for you as well. As I've indicated, all of this is being evaluated as we look at what has transpired so that it does not continue.
Well, I look forward to see what standards of conduct will be mandatory with respect to the private sector here, because, like many other Americans, I'm rapidly losing my confidence that they have any ethical standards.
Gentleman's time has expired. Gentlelady from Oklahoma.